when you read those quarterly statements of Marathon and all the other big miners, some even selling their Bitcoin to make investments into AI data centers. It sounds a bit like the doomsday is happening.
There's no doomsday happening for Bitcoin mining.
So don't believe everything you see in the news first. These guys are not visionaries. So start doing the math. You need to put all that money up front, build everything, do not make any money for 2.5 years, again, if you're great, and then you start earning. To mine 1 megawatt of Bitcoin mining, if you're great at it and you're good, you're going to spend between $1 million and $1.5 million. You know how much it is for an AI 1 megawatt deployment?
All right. Good morning, all. Nice to be here with this great panel. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, today we're going to talk about Bitcoin mining in a lot of different ways, but also the most important one for you in the audience. If you maybe want to start mining, yeah, how can you do it? What do you need to look out for? Yeah, and I have a great panel here to ask. People from Ocean, Braiins, from Bitaxe. Yeah, it's an honor to be on the stage with all of you guys. I have to say that I tried all of your services last year as a home miner, and yeah, it's great to do that. So I was looking at the description of this panel, and I've read the biggest energy arbitrage in history. I've read pure profit, an unblockable stream of wealth. Those are big words, but then I opened my laptop and I saw that the hash price is at the lowest since ever, almost. Bitcoin is 50% down compared to last year, right? That's also difficult for miners. And this Saturday, I think in 43 hours, we have quite a big difficulty decrease as well, right? So things are happening in the mining world. And then in 2 years, in less than 2 years, we have a halving coming up, which is also really important for miners. So with those factors, I want to ask you guys, maybe I will start here next to me. Is this the best moment to start mining for the last 8 years, or the worst? What do you think?
100% yes. Now is always the best time to start
Yeah.
mining. A lot of the stuff that we sort of preach and really believe in working on the Bitaxe project is, you know, anyone can get involved into this. We're trying to lower the barriers to people getting involved in it. If you have even the slightest interest in mining and being a part of this, you know, whatever sort of sub niche of Bitcoin mining, you can get involved in it. There's no reason why you shouldn't. You know, don't get overwhelmed with how difficult it is to set up, what the profitability is, any of those things. Just start now, invest in yourself, learn how it works,
Yeah.
and you know, you can just go. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, do
Right.
it.
Let's go over to you, Nacho. How can do you agree? Should you start mining today?
Yeah,
as
definitely. But if you want to do it, start learn the process. Now the tools are very, very much in hand with AI, you know, growing
Yeah.
massively. So anybody from home can do it with a Bitaxe.
Yeah.
You can start there, and if you want to do it at a big scale, and you have the will, the power, and the money to do it, the only thing you have to do is be smart about it. So you can start at any size, but now you have to be very smart about, you know, price of power, where you do it, which type of ASICs you're buying, when you're buying them. And now the new layer that's going to come with everything you just said, you scared the hell out of everybody. So guys, don't be scared. We can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. So what we can do now is be smart about it.
Yeah.
Now there's another layer that we never used to think about. That's the financial side of things. You need to be smart, and whatever you mine, you don't need to use your Bitcoin to pay for the daily, for the power, for everything. You need to be smart on the financial side of things. After 28, if you manage to do that, and you bring an extra layer that up to now we could do it anyways, but now we need to be smarter. So you need to start learning new skills. That's amazing. The best thing about Bitcoin, you have to be always iterating and learning about something new, you know, better performance, how to run their energy, how to now be smart about handling your money and the investment.
Yeah, let's get over to you, Javier. At Braiins, you also, if I look at it, there are more and more products in the last couple of years that are geared towards home miners.
Yes.
also using your pool. So what's the philosophy behind that? Do you see it maybe as a gateway drug to bigger things, right? To more hash power? Does it all start with a small miner at home?
I think there's the way we look at it at Braiins, as you described, there's a push also. We are bringing new products to the market through Braiins Forge that are more oriented to home miners, and but at the same time, Braiins Core is not only basically the full vertical solution for institutionals, but we are also starting to mine ourselves. So I think I mean, at this moment, to your question, now is a great moment to start mining. Maybe 2021 with S19J Pros at $12,000 and all that might not have been a great moment, but right now, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that basically enabling people from the smallest, from kids that are buying Bitaxes, Braiins mini miners, these home devices, to families that want to heat up their homes using, Bitcoin miners. There's a lot of currently available products to do that. To energy companies wanting to monetize their stranded energy, transmission constrained renewable generations wanting to monetize that energy. There's so many applications and so many use cases for Bitcoin mining, from the small scale to the big scale, that we're living at a moment that, I mean, I remember when I started mining in 2013 with a Butterfly Labs Jalapeno at home, powered by USB. That disappeared for a while.
Yeah.
That really disappeared for a while. I stopped mining, and now I'm seeing a comeback through BTC Prague, Braiins Mini Miner, Hash Power, all these different products that are coming in the last, let's say, 2-3 years, that are bringing back mining to, let's say, to the small people and not just from the institutions. And look at the institutions, we were discussing it backstage, like they're moving towards AI. So that opens that drop in difficulty that you just mentioned. That's magic to my ears.
Yeah, no, I agree. I got into mining myself with an old S9, but after that with the Bitaxe. But I think the thing is that I see with a lot of people, when they use a Bitaxe, you buy one, it's 100 euros or 150 euros or something. So okay, a miner is not free. I have to invest upfront in the machine, right? And then you put it on for a month, and then you see, in Europe at least, that I earn €1 a month, right? And then in the second month, you put a smart plug into your Bitaxe, and then you are seeing, okay, but I'm paying €3 a month for electricity, right? So it gets you thinking, okay, wait a second, there is more to mining than just plugging it in and becoming rich. But it also shows that it's pretty difficult to earn something there, even if you have free energy. So what are the extra things that you can do? I've heard heat reuse, I heard grid stability. Like, what are the most promising things that you can do as a miner, even as a home miner, to try to become profitable, or at least break even? Anyone wants to jump in there?
Yeah, I mean, heat reuse, which you mentioned, is a huge one, right? The name of the game, if you want to be profitable, is lowering the cost of your electricity.
Yeah.
And if you already need the heat, Bitcoin miners are 100% efficient space heaters or water heaters. All the power that goes into them is radiated as heat, 100%. So if you already need the heat, then you just get this bonus Bitcoin if it's a Bitcoin miner. That's a fantastic way to get involved. And the world uses a lot of comfort heat. So it's a huge potential.
Yeah, so if I can play the devil's advocate there on that point. I mean, you're from the US, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so in the Netherlands, at least, I bought a new home. I got a heat pump, which is 3 to 4 times more efficient than using heat from a radiator or like a miner. So my question would be also for the other guys here, educate me. How is that in other parts of the world, right?
So there's a project right now, and let's get it out of the home stage to a big stage, in Finland running today, where they're actually mining Bitcoin, and the heat that's produced is heating a whole town.
Yeah.
This is not a massive project. It's a pilot. It's, to my knowledge, about 1 to 5 megawatts, which is, if you don't know energy, it's quite a bit. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But it's not big enough for actual big miners to consider it something massive. But every ounce of heat that's produced is now being used in order to heat a whole town. So what we get there is the cornerstone of our industry comes to the price of power. So if you guys know, we're consuming more and more all around the world. So how can we bring some benefit to generation in a town that we use all the heat that we produce in order to give them that heating that they crave so much? Because they were burning wood, they're using different materials in order to keep warm. Now we're mining Bitcoin, we're getting a better price of power because all that heat is being reduced and reinserted into the community.
Yeah.
So what's happening with Bitcoin mining, again, going back to the original statement that we discussed, is you have to get creative. You have to go mine on the edge. You have to find, these stranded energy opportunities. Let's give you facts. Paraguay, there's 12 gigawatts. Guys, that powers, for you to understand, the dam that's down there produces 12 gigawatts. The whole country owns 6 of those 12, and the consumption of the whole country is 2.5 gigawatts.
Yeah.
So that surplus of energy is just sitting there. Some of it is being used for industry, but there's a gigawatt of mining there. So 50% of what the whole country consumes is now being used for Bitcoin mining from a renewable source of energy. So again, what's going to happen with mining is we're not going anywhere. All this hype with AI, HPC, it's amazing. We can go into that rabbit hole, and I can give you a lot of information. But what we have to do is go and find these opportunities. Go and be creative about it. Start using heat at a massive scale, like I told you, that's happening right now, and it's a fact, not a tale. At home, you buy your Bitaxes. You can actually buy a big miner. It's not going to make you. It's not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to be profitable with it, but you can use all the other assets to reduce the cost of your the house. So you start bringing in the math. You're actually making money.
I was going to ask that to Bart. Does your heat pump give you any revenue back? Even though it's 3 times more efficient, but really, that's a question that.
Yeah, but I think it's a good question, and I thought about this. So I think it's really important with mining and Bitcoin mining is to be very clear in what the primary product is and what the secondary product is, and in that way how you or the primary function, if you will, and then compare it to the rivaling technology. For instance, if you're saying it's for grid stability, then I'm comparing it to a battery. If you say it's for heat generation, I'm comparing it to a heat pump or to geothermal heat generation or whatever, right? And if you say it's a money maker, then I will value it on that, right? So I agree. If you have a miner that's efficient enough, my heat pump is not making me any money. But I don't buy a heat pump for money. I buy it to warm up my house efficiently, right? So, and right now with some of the miners, it's almost like you buy them for the heat as a primary source. There are stands here at the expo who are doing just that. And yeah, sorry, then I'm going to compare it to a heat pump, right? Because that's the main use case of it in
absolutely. Then your equation needs to be, how much money do I spend in energy to heat up my house using my heat pump? How much revenue am I getting from the Bitcoin mining compared to, or better said, sorry, like how much money do I spend on the heat pump to heat up my house? That's spent and that's gone. And then how much money do I spend to heat up my house with a Bitcoin miner, and how much revenue am I deducting from that expenditure? And then I'm not going to get positive, but probably my expenses to heat up my house are going to be reduced. And that's basically where you have the primary function is going to be heat up my house, right? But you're just reducing the cost to a minimum. So that's and you're helping secure the network of the best money ever created. So that's another extra function that might make you also feel good about it.
As a Bitcoiner, that's completely true.
You're missing one very big important point.
Yeah.
You need to run your own node. This is mandatory. If you're going to start mining, run your own node. Run whatever you want, research, do whatever. I'm not going to pitch Ocean or what we do, but run your own node. And let's put it on a big scale. Let's go around the world. I was talking about Paraguay, and let's go to a fancy place. Let's go to Texas. 2021, massive winter storm. Texas got wrecked. Lines were crushed. People were stranded. No energy. There was a lot of casualties. It was a massive storm. So fast forward this year, early this year, the same similar storm, a little bit lighter, hit Texas. With all the evolution and all the amount of Bitcoin mining that was there, we as Bitcoin miners brought in a way to balance the grid.
Yeah.
So when people at home needed energy, we curtailed, we shut off, in order for them to get their heaters running, their pumps at home running, everything, their Bitaxes running, everything. So
The important part.
long story short, Bitcoin mining is much bigger than everything. First, we're very fast to deploy. Second, we're consuming energy 365 non-stop. And the third is we have the capacity to shut it off. Can you shut off a steel mill? No.
That's
Can
true.
you shut off a coal mine? No. You need to keep doing it, and you need you cannot stop it at all. So our industry is much bigger than just the Bitcoin mining. We contribute. I've heard people around saying, "Oh, we heat up the oceans. We are, the data centers are the worst," and that's not true. It's the other way around. We are paying massive bills for electricity everywhere we go, and we are contributing to transmission, to getting to those, towns in the middle of nowhere, lines, because we are actually investing into the energy and the energy company in decent countries, let's not get into politics, but in decent countries, they reinvest that money into infrastructure.
Yeah.
And we are adding that layer of being able to balance that load consistently. And in one of the biggest states in the US, 86 gigawatts of generation, we are adding an extra layer, and they keep growing because we're building so much and consuming so much that they have to power to do it.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, a little bit of another opportunity that is coming out there to all of the people, especially if we think about the renewable energies that have been created. I mean, we've seen it, windmills standing still and other renewable sources just not being used. And the companies that are running these gigantic machines are being paid for shutting them down because we do have too much. With Bitcoin, we have the opportunity to use that energy, and instead of everybody else paying taxes and the government then paying these companies to shut down these machines, we can use that energy and not waste any of the tax money and what else. So it is benefiting basically everybody if we use that.
100%. And if I may ask a question, like, or add another point, is that the grid stabilization part that you also mentioned, I think there's a beautiful opportunity for those, Bitcoin miner heaters for the Bitaxes as they, might grow a little bit also in load and consumption for the mini miners, because there's a thing that's a virtual power aggregator that they operate in Europe, they operate in the US, and there are companies, small tech companies, that are actually aggregating power virtually that will send you a signal and will make you shut down, and you will get paid as well for shutting down whenever there's, So that's something that we are doing, bigger miners are doing all the time in Texas, in Europe, in Finland, participating in different demand response programs. But it's also like this technology is also going to be enabling home miners to participate in that. It's not going to be as big as a revenue as the bigger miners get, but hey, everything helps to, heat your house in a more efficient, also economically efficient way.
I think especially in the home mining scene, when it comes to heating and everything else, we've heard about the big scale part of it, which is really needed for certain cities, countries, and so on. But in the home mining industry, it is kind of a weird conception, as you said, like, what about my heat pump or other parts that I can use to heat up my home? I would disagree with what you said earlier, that it is to make it somewhat profitable. I would say in the home mining scene, when people are trying to use Bitcoin to heat up, the main idea is not to use heat. The main idea is to reduce your cost that you have to heat. So instead of you just making the numbers up of, all right, how much do I need to spend on Bitcoin mining in order to have a nice shower with warm water, I'm going to think about how much can I decrease the amount of what's going on there.
That's brilliant. I agree, 100%.
Aggregates with what you just said earlier there. And especially in the home mining scene, it is kind of a weird situation. People that are not invested or into the scene of gigantic gigawatts of power consumption or renewable energies, they have issues of understanding how mining does actually work. These are gigantic machines in terms of using gigawatts if you do combine all of them, but home mining isn't that hard, and the solutions are there for the people. And as we discussed earlier, I think now is actually the time to just get into all of that. And if you're interested in the technology behind it, and if you don't want to stop with just the basic things that you do here in the news, you start diving into Bitcoin mining and realizing how beautiful it can be, and how it basically improves every part that we can have in the entire economy.
So before we move on to the next topic that I really wanted to discuss, I want to ask one last question to you, because I think I saw you working on some projects at home using solar, right, to power your Bitaxes. So maybe take a couple of moments to talk about that, because that is one of those experiments that's really fun, at least. And how did it work out?
So one of the first things I'd like to say is I'm really jealous about having, like, if we could use gigawatts or megawatts of renewable energies for the plebs out there, that would be insane.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely that's something where you need high investments and everything else. So it is out of the league of the average person, I'd like to say. So what did I do? I basically tinkered around as a nerd, and I put some solar panels on my carport, hooked them up together, and I run, I don't know, like 20 different Bitaxes, because as I'm developing on them, I like to run all of them, but I don't like to pay my electricity bills, so I just hooked up solar. In the end of the day, does it make sense to do that? Probably not, because you need to pay for all of the things like the solar panels, the inverters, the batteries. It is quite a huge thing that you need to do, but it helps me in reducing the footprint that I do have, especially if you think about, like, we need to have green energy, etc. Then you feel a little bit better. But in the end, if you have capacities, if you have the option, if you have room, going out there and creating something on your own, just plugging in a couple of cables, connecting everything, maybe soldering one or the other thing, it's not that hard. It's easy, and it gives the people the option to realize how mining actually works. Combining that with something that's open source, even better, because you can grasp the knowledge and you can go out there and teach others. And for me, solar mining is fantastic. If the weather in Germany would be a little bit better, it would be better. But I'm not living in Texas or in Nevada, so I'm having an issue there.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, I can't say anything bad about it,
Okay.
apart from the initial investment.
The
This is a
famous
really important point,
Dunkelflaute.
Like, not only can you take a Bitaxe and get into mining and start to understand how mining works, but it really is a gateway drug to becoming a miner developer, or to be, an energy systems for mining developer, right? Because you can get a Bitaxe and you can plug it in.
Yeah.
But next thing you do is like, okay, I want to overclock. I want to change my heat sink.
I want two.
I want to
Nerdex.
yes,
I
I want
want
two.
Octax.
I want to power it with some solar panels. Like, how can I do that?
Yeah.
And it turns out it's not really that hard once you get into it, especially with AI tools. And this is what I really am excited about seeing, is more people building these things and understanding how to change them and make them work.
Especially going into automations.
Yeah.
We talked about the big machines and big farms. For them, it is necessary to have automations. You talked about the signals that you do get from companies to shut down your equipment. Like, somehow this needs to work. You need to have software for this to work. And if you can build it in a really minimal scale, it's not as easy to scale it up to like a big scale. I do know that, but it's the first step, the drug to get into it. And this is just the beauty about it. It's not that hard to get into Bitcoin mining. Scaling it is the hard part.
I want to move on to the next topic, because you were talking about AI, and that it's really nice for home miners to just ask questions, and how does it work, and how can I set up a Bitaxe, and I'm seeing this on my screen. But in the mining industry, there are also some other people that are really enthusiastic about AI, and those are the CEOs of the big public mining companies, because they're all moving to AI. And at first, when you read those quarterly statements and annual statements of Marathon and all the other big miners, some even selling their Bitcoin to make investments into AI data centers, it sounds a bit like the doomsday is happening, right? I'm giving it to you guys. You can burn my whole story down, but it feels like that when you read it at first. I can understand when people are reading that. We've been used to all those miners being on the podium and saying we are going to be in Bitcoin forever. We're never going to leave. And then the next year, they move on and they put AI in their data centers because it's more profitable, right? And what I want to talk about is, if you think further, that is probably going to create massive opportunities, maybe for the miners in Africa or in South America, or you could expect a lot of Bitcoin miners coming onto the market, like the equipment from the miners in Texas. They have to sell it because, they are putting AI infrastructure into their data centers. So maybe those S19s that they bought and that are still efficient will come to market for really good prices, and then all of a sudden, all business cases in other parts of the world become profitable again. I see you, Javier.
I would love to reply to that,
Yeah.
yes. So, no, there's no doomsday happening for Bitcoin mining. Why? AI has an intrinsic problem, which is that it's not flexible. There are efforts that are happening right now, different software companies that are trying to work on making AI flexible, but it is difficult. So if you need access to power, grid power, there's a fast track to power if you are actually flexible. And that's happening in Texas, that's happening in Europe, in Belgium. So instead of waiting 3 years to get a 200 megawatt interconnection in Belgium, for example, you wait 1 year or even 6 months if you're actually having 30% of that as flexible. If you cannot do it with AI, how do you do it? You mentioned batteries at the beginning of the talk, and I wanted to get into that because you said, okay, I compare batteries with Bitcoin mining. Why would I go for Bitcoin mining? Well, the capex is much lower. Yeah, it's not as fast acting as a battery, but you don't always need that speed of reaction to stabilize the grid and to be flexible. So Bitcoin mining is good enough, and actually you have very, very fast response times if you actually optimize everything with Bitcoin mining. So coupling Bitcoin mining with AI is going to be imperative. That's the way I see it. That's the way we see it.
Let me iterate even more. So don't believe everything you see in the news, first.
I am not saying I
other than
believe
that,
that, right?
These guys are not visionaries. You know, all that hype is there.
It's not in the news. Like, it's their 8Ks. It's their filing.
Yes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but it's, again, they're not going anywhere. The mining facilities are still there. The mining facilities are paying high price of power, going back to your statement that we're coming up on a halving, that,
Yeah.
you know, mining is at a high level is extremely hard. Is if you're paying anything over 4.8 cents a kilowatt by 28, you won't be able to make a profit mining Bitcoin.
No.
So these guys are in 10-year PPAs, paying 5 cents, 5.5 cents. They need to iterate. They need to move into some industry that will pay a little bit more. That being said, to build an AI tier 3, not tier 4 data center, you need to have redundancy. It's going to take you, if you're great at it, 2.5 years to build it.
Yeah.
And then you start mining. But in the meantime, you're paying power, not energy, but power. So you're spending a lot of money. And to mine 1 megawatt of Bitcoin mining, if you're great at it and you're good, you're going to spend between $1 million and $1.5 million. You know how much it is for an AI 1 megawatt deployment? 15 million. So start doing the math. You need to put all that money up front, build everything, do not make any money for 2.5 years, again, if you're great, and then you start earning. And all these claims that they're paying massive, you know, all the off-takers, Google will pay you $280 for a megawatt. No, they're not. That's not true. The actual number is 120 to 140. And again, ready to go right now, power, not in 2 years down the line. So there's a lot of little things that most people don't know because they're not in our industry and don't know the complexity of what we do. What I would say, going back to, you know, that is, I would love the public miners to go and, you know, iterate into AI, you know, balance it. That will give small and mid-sized miners the opportunity to grow because the network's not growing as fast as it was growing before. It actually decreased 12%, Scott, if I'm not mistaken, more or less. So that gives you, again, an opportunity to grow. You know, difficulty goes down, all the things you did when we started. So all this hype that's going on, it's great first to use the tools to configure your Bitaxe for the first time because you have the accessibility to AI. And the second thing is giving room for actual Bitcoin miners that are, you know, trying to grow and have been under the weight of those massive miners that were hiling all the
Do you guys see that happening already in your pool statistics?
I mean,
and it's the best thing forever because we're decentralizing. It's not under 5 or 6 companies. Now there's
I think it's
10,
great.
12, 30, 100, 150.
It's our official position, let's say. Like, I mean, at least I'm defending that position at Braiins, that it's a great opportunity for us, for example, moving into Bitcoin mining as we are right now ourselves, and for all these small and mid-sized operations that are just going to see margins decompressing in their industry while the big guys are just moving to a margin compressing market like AI. And again,
for all of you to start mining, by the way.
Yeah.
Going back to the statement.
And
jump in.
the 12% drop that we'll see in difficulties is music to my ears, and is music to all the ears of all these mid-sized miners. And again, the big guys are going to still need Bitcoin mining to collocate because of the flexibility that is not. It's imperative to have flexibility if you're connected to grid. Unless you're going off grid and you're building your data center, your AI data center with your own utility grade generation, because tier 3, tier 4, you need SLAs of 99.9999% uptime. So you're not going to be able to operate a data center unless you're either building utility grade generation next to it and you own it and it's yours, which is happening and it's going to happen as well, or you're connected to grid. And if you want to connect to grid, you need the flexibility, and for that flexibility, you need Bitcoin mining.
We are means to an end. We can build and operate if the power is there and the interconnection is there, in 4 to 6 months, we can be mining.
Another
so
point.
Of those 2.5 years that you're building towards your tier 3, call Nacho, we come in, we mine the hell out of it for 2.5 years, and when we're done, we pick up and we move to the next site and to the next site. So Bitcoin mining is no more than just like, adding to a grid, adding to transmission, adding to investment into a country, or it's the way for those guys that are building these massive AI data centers to make a profit. The price of power is going to be higher, so making a profit, and going back to the home example, is mining Bitcoin at a high price of power makes no sense. But if you're going to have to pay the power either way, mine it, keep the Bitcoin, be smart about the financial side of things and don't spend it, keep building your AI data center, then pick up, move the exact same thing to the next side, and so on and so forth. So Bitcoin is much bigger than Bitcoin mining is much bigger than just what we stated. It's the same thing you're doing at home at a massive scale. Start doing it, learn about it, heat your house or use your panels, fiddle with it, get the knowledge. Then you're going to start going for some more always, because, and again, you're going to run your own node. You're going to feel that you're part of the network. You're going to contribute to the network. You're going to run whatever pool or software you want to run and fiddle with it, test, figure it out. Do it yourself if you are, have the time, or are smart enough, and put in the work. That's the beauty of Bitcoin. You can do whatever you want.
I agree, and thanks for the insights. It's really helpful to hear that from you guys that are so deep in the industry. So if we go further on what you said and take it back home, right? Let's end it with the Bitaxes and stuff. So if I ask you two guys, how do you see the Bitaxe improving, right? So what I saw the last years, we started with the Bitaxe, and then there was a Bitaxe Gamma and a Bitaxe Turbo and whatever, and it went from 1 ASIC chip to 2 to 4 to 8. And at some point, I think I asked that on Twitter as well, so we're scrapping S19s, taking the ASICs out, building Bitaxes, but at some point you're taking the S19 apart and just building it up again if you make a Bitaxe with 32 or 64 ASICs, right? So where do you see it ending? What is your dream for the Bitaxe project from a software stand of view, but also from a hardware point of view?
I think from both a software and firmware, hardware point of view, I see this growing exponentially, right? It's already been growing exponentially, incredibly fast in just a short amount of time. Like you said, all those different Bitaxe models, but there's been different follow-on models from different contributors, right? This is how we really move this forward, and that's what I want to increase, is the people's ability to build Bitaxes, to build new miners for whatever application they have, so that they can actually just go and it isn't centralized on me to say this is the the roadmap for Bitaxe. I have a couple new models in mind. We are working on getting agreements with ASIC chip manufacturers, right? So we're not taking the chips.
Yeah, you're not have to scrap them anymore.
Yeah, we're not scrapping anymore. We become first-class citizens and really scale this, and that project is going very well. But the idea here is that what we're trying to enable is people to build miners, right? Whether it's for heat reuse, whether it's for more blinky, flashy, cool home miners, but this is how we build it really fast. So there isn't an official roadmap, but just to keep going and accelerate this, and by doing that in a decentralized way, I think it does a great service for Bitcoin.
I think also, to add to that, one of the biggest issues that will arise, especially if some things don't work out in the future for big companies doing mining at a massive scale, they're always depending on the price of Bitcoin and how this evaluates in the exchange to the fiat shitcoin. And the problem with that is that these companies need to make profit. Sure, if you think about the Bitaxe, does it make sense to run a terahash at home? There might be arguments for it and there might be arguments against it. But if these big companies fail, let's say in 10 years, because it's no longer really profitable to do that and they all need to swap over to AI because it's just better and whatever, just a hypothetical idea, then what's going to happen with Bitcoin? Well, if we have people at home that have the option to do whatever they want with their hardware, or they run it in a miniature scale, there are then, hopefully, millions of people that just don't care.
Yep.
And if you reach that point, nothing is ever stopping Bitcoin.
No, exactly. Nobody's going to turn it off. Like, even if I make a loss, I'm not turning it off because, but that's to my point, then your primary goal of running a miner is to protect Bitcoin, right?
Yes.
I'm not the CEO of a big company with shareholders. No, I'm a pleb trying to help Bitcoin, right? And I think that's a great one. I want to give the other two guys also a minute to just say the last things you want, give you the opportunity to...
You're missing a big point. You also need to run your own node. If you want to
Yeah,
contribute
I'm running
to the
it,
network,
by the way.
even if you're running a Bitaxe and a JPro and S19, you're running 100 megawatts or 100, whatever it is you're doing, run your own node, contribute to the
agree.
network. We're all for freedom, autonomy, and if you're, saying it, own it.
Yeah, I'm running it, by the way. You're looking really mad at me, but I'm already saying I've been running a node for the last 8 years, so it's there.
Thank you for that.
It's
Do
a
it.
good,
Do it,
but
man.
it's a good point.
I'm not sure if we have mentioned this, but yeah, running a node is really important. Maybe 7 or 8 times today. But it is true. It's like, for people that don't understand it, and there might be people that don't know it, because we haven't mentioned why are we insisting on the running a node, is that it gives you the voting power in the network.
Yeah.
It's the only way to actually vote. As a miner, you're just building blocks, but as a node runner, you choose what software is running, what version, and therefore what features should be in the protocol. So that is really important. And otherwise, I agree with Lars, even if all these companies would fail, I think it would be the plebs that would keep the network running, but I don't think it will ever fail because there will always be stranded energy somewhere that can be used. There's all the applications that we have mentioned, but there will always be that stranded energy that can be used to power the Bitcoin mining network.
If I may summarize this, I think to put it into one sentence is not companies are Bitcoin, we are Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I agree. So run your own nodes, try out Stratum, try out Datum, buy a Bitaxe, buy a Raspberry Pi,
A mini
flash
miner.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Run your own
Build a
node.
Bitaxe.
Yeah. And build a bit. Yeah, build a Bitaxe. That's the next step. So, yeah, thank you guys. It's been really, like I said, an honor to be on the podium with you. I learned a lot in 40 minutes, so I hope you guys learned a lot as well. Enjoy the first day of Prague. Enjoy the city, and see you around. Thank you.